You're gonna put some on their ass.
All right.
Oh, whoa.
All righty, folks. Welcome back to a brand new show, the Trailer Park Show. We are here. We are live, and we are always original. Um, Today we have a very special show today, as many people saw on the trailer of the program, which thank you, Anthony Wynn, for the great production on that part.
Thank you, Anthony.
A lot of stuff has been going on with the Republican Party of Texas. And we want to go ahead and talk a little bit more about what is going on. But here on the panel with us, we have Anthony Wynn, who as we mentioned before, he's one of the sponsors, and he's the one that produces the great promos for the program. We have Mike Lee, the director of outreach for the Travis County Republican Party, and also the host of Right Talk with Mike Lee, and also the president of the Austin Area MLK Association, and of course we have the lovely Miss Marilyn Jackson here with us, who has graciously joined us today to talk about what's going on with politics today, and of course there's me. In the background right now, I don't know if you guys were able to hear earlier, we were having some slight technical difficulties, as you can probably see right now with the backdrop over here, but we have. They're working on some stuff right now. The Gremlins took over, and Pokey decided to do mouth-to-mouth resuscitation to one of the laptops to ensure that the computer is going to work. So they're trying to revive Pokey right now, make sure that the oxygen tank that he has on right now is functional, and his wife is taking due diligence care of him to make sure that everything's all right. We also have a special guest that will be calling in, and I believe they're working on that part right now. From Raging Elephants, Apostle Claver.
Yes.
Phenomenal guy. I met him a few years ago at a Tea Party rally over in Georgetown, and phenomenal guy. I gotta say right now, he's a wealth of information. Very very religious man, and got to hear him a couple times just recently, and several times before on Raging Elephants on the radio show that he has about what's going on. But in the meantime, while we're waiting for Ms. Pokey and Pokey to go ahead and so we are ready then. Oh, we're always ready. All right, so we've got on the phone right now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest with us that we just mentioned a few seconds ago. The ever popular, the ever wonderful Apostle Claver from Raging Elephants. Mr.
I don't know. I don't know about all that introduction, man. That was a little bit overboard.
Well, we've got to tell you that we've met a couple times before with mutual friend of ours, Craig Bouchon, out in Georgetown. At the Tea Party rally, and we have some very special friends here with us that you have spoken to at one time or another, and we are very honored to have you here on the Trailer Park Show to talk about the breaking story that you guys did last week concerning all the great changes. I guess we can say all the great changes that are going on with the Texas GOP.
I don't know any of those people on the show except for Maryland. That's the only one I know is Crazy Maryland.
Well, I'll put it mention this one. I'll refresh a little bit of your memory. We were doing a Tea Party rally over in Georgetown with a gentleman by the name of Craig Bouchon when we were doing Be First in Media. I was the guy behind the camera just taking care of all the stuff while you and Craig were talking. So,
Oh, yeah, Craig. Craig, I mean, everybody knows, man. Craig steals the show whenever he walks in the room. So.
Exactly. I'm kind of the guy that carries the bag every once in a while just to make sure everything's okay and make sure that the pictures are all pretty. So,
just go ahead and call yourself exactly what you are, man. I mean, you got to humble yourself. Just go ahead and call yourself a roadie. You're a roadie. That's what it is.
Yeah, so I'm the roadie turned host of the Trailer Park Show. Hey, I'll take that step up. Not a problem. I'm happy to take that step up. But what we want to do is talk a little bit about the breaking news that you had on your show, and talk a little bit about, I guess, how you guys, if you can, about how you guys found out about this and what you perceive as the impact of Tom Melcher being, quitting.
Okay, well, RagingElePhantsRadio.com, in which I would invite everybody to listen to. It's 24/7, 365. Focuses almost exclusively just on the Texas political ecosystem, what's happening in Texas. As president and CEO of the company, for us, anything that's outside of Texas, we consider it international news. So,
perfect.
And so, well, I mean, we just saw that there's an absolute void. There's a dearth of information for Texas voters that are liberty-driven. There's just not enough media coverage of what's happening in folks' own backyard where the defense of liberty begins. And so over this past 3 years, what has happened is that activists who are out there at the tip of the spear have come to acknowledge what we've always wanted to become, and that is the unifying voice for the liberty movement in the Lone Star State. And that's sort of what we've cultivated through the activists. And so just like mainstream media that is able to cultivate different sources, reliable sources, if you will, in different quarters, so it is with us, what we've been able to do through, first of all, my long years of activism out there in the grassroots, on the ground myself, when I had the Political Action Committee, and previous to that, and then afterwards when we started RER. So when this news began to break, it was actually folks, our sources that were close to the party or actually within the party that started giving us tips that Meckler was on the verge of quitting abruptly for no apparent reason. Just out of the clear blue sky. Nobody knew exactly what his reasons would be for stepping down so abruptly. I've known the man personally since 2010, and I know that this has been his dream job. He's always wanted this job. Even when he was in Alaska, he wanted to be the chairman of the Republican Party of Texas. And so why so quickly? But when we started getting reports of this from our sources on Tuesday evening, and my phone started blowing up. And then there was a bit of consensus. Now, by the time Wednesday morning rolled around of last week, that would be the 16th, the consensus had kind of flown apart. Some of our sources, and remember, we're talking about multiple sources, not just one individual.
Right.
Some of our sources were saying, okay, definitely it's on, and others were saying, no, it was fake news. It was some sort of political trial balloon or fake move by the Meckler faction for whatever political purposes they were trying to identify folks. But by Wednesday evening, it all started to gel again. Mm-hmm. And by Thursday morning, by the time my program came on at noon, all the sources were saying it was a definite green light, and he was actually going to announce on Saturday, which would be this past Saturday, May the 20th. And so he sure did. And then other news outlets from around the state began to pick it up. And that's really the cliff notes of how the story started developing. Our sources started picking it up. There were some other things that we were questioning as we were developing the story and as our sources were giving us seed to go and feed on. But that's the genesis of it. And now, of course, the story is developing even more, and we're getting more information information, and it's going to be something else in the next few days.
Wow.
It sounds great going out over the TV.
So,
but
so
it's
are we
not
looking
welcome
at?
here.
So are we looking at this? For someone to quit so quickly, are you, based on what you're hearing and what you're probably seeing, do you think that there's something bigger or a bigger scandal that may be going on within the party, or is it just something that they're saying, hey, this guy's going to be doing something bigger and better that's not within the state of Texas?
Well, on RagingElePhantsRadio.com, we were able to obtain his letter,
Right.
his goodbye letter. And the question becomes from that is whether you take his reasons listed within the text of the letter, the body of the letter, at face value. First, he said that he's been having business problems. He's in the oil and gas industry, has been so pretty much all his life. In the letter, he says that he had to sell off assets in order to keep his oil and gas business afloat. Now, within the letter, he said although he was having financial problems, he gave the position as if that was the only reason he would have kept on going as chairman of the RPT. But then he basically said that his family life was suffering. It basically boiled down to his 16 grandchildren missed pawpaw, and that's why he was quitting. But you can take it at face value, or the pressures were too high. When he lists the types of pressures that the job requires, you know, the stress, the time, the travel, being away from home, it's like, didn't you know this in 2010 when you first ran and I gave your nomination speech?
Exactly.
You don't get paid for the job. It's all-encompassing. It is a full-time job. You live in Amarillo. The headquarters is in Austin. And then what would possess you to run for the position? And then 1 year later, you say that your family is suffering. I mean, if anybody who's running for the position should know that it is a stressful, all-encompassing, 24/7, 365 job. You are the chairman of the largest political party in the nation,
Right.
the Republican Party of Texas. It's the largest in the nation statewide. That holds the largest political convention, perhaps, in the world. So 1 year later, you're going to say it's the family stress? You can take it at face value, and you can say, okay, it's the typical politician giving the typical reasons for quitting before their term is due, or you can say it's the political pressures that are surrounding him, that are coming down on him, where he just says, that's it, I've had enough.
Right. Yeah, and Mike Lee and I have talked about this at some distance or some length where personally I'm at that point where like you said, you knew the job is dangerous when you took it, and you knew what the stress levels were going to be when you decided to run. So there's something else that's not being said, which is fine. We're like, okay, fine, you're going to leave. And I was looking at his goodbye letter. I think many of us have seen it already, and I'm actually on the RagingElePhantsRadio.com website where you have it posted. One of the interesting things that came up was involving the outreach of what we need to do next, and what the new chairman has to do in order to keep Texas red. I've seen some of the numbers. And I ran for office this past election, and you try to fight that good fight, but if you don't have numbers, you ain't got squat. And from what we were seeing at the state level didn't really care about the numbers. And I think that's kind of one of the big things that was going on with several members from the minority groups that were saying, hey, what are we seeing? The metrics, as you pointed out, and as Michael and I have been talking about with our relaunch of the Austin Area MLK Association, is that with many people, numbers are going to be everything. And we weren't seeing those numbers. All we saw was whether it is blue or red, and whether it has a dollar sign attached to it. And so, would I be wrong to assume that part of the reason why he's leaving is because we didn't have the numbers to go ahead and be able to have him as a successful chairman?
Well, it's hard for me to believe that the lack of success in this area, and a term that I sort of introduced, engagement, would be the reason that he would step down. I don't think there would be a lot of pressure rank and file GOP base, the delegation of the convention, on this particular issue that would cause this premature resignation. Now, that doesn't mean it's not important. In fact, to me, it is an absolute priority. Anyone that's out there in ATX that knows of me probably became familiar with me because of the political engagement that I was doing with RagingElephants.org, trying to do precisely that, grow the conservative voting base in Texas through racial diversity, and did work in East Austin, identifying conservatives in East Austin. So one of the reasons that I gave his nomination speech for chairman when he ran the first time in 2010 was because we sat down in some sushi restaurant on 6th Street or 5th Street in Austin, downtown Austin, and he gave me his assurances that he understood the demographic challenges the state was facing. He understood the plan of attack that I was trying to execute, and he wanted to bring it to the party level statewide. And so that pretty much convinced me, based on the other two folks that were running, that he was the horse to go with in 2010. Well, he lost the election. I was there when the deal was done to hand the election over to Monastery. And when Meckler in 2015 was elected to an interim term, when Monastery stepped down, in his acceptance speech and his interview afterwards with us at Raging Elephants Radio, he once again emphasized the importance of getting diversity into the party. As you see in his goodbye letter, he once again mentioned this has been his passion. But the numbers aren't there. The results aren't there. Now, I don't know what's going on in the other outreach departments, if you will, in the other color codes, the color departments, the yellow and the brown departments, but there's been a lot of problems in the black department.
Right.
And black engagement, the black conservatives around the state have really been wrestling amongst themselves about what to do with this conundrum of an apparent lack of effort coming from the Republican Party of Texas in this area. Now, what members of the State Republican Executive Committee, such as J.T. Edwards, happens to be a black guy, committeeman out of SD11 and a friend of Raging Elephants Radio, is that in other demographic areas, they have metrics, they have numbers. It's JT's claim that there's numbers for Hispanic engagement, there's numbers for Asian engagement, but when it comes to African Texan engagement, there seems to be nothing whatsoever. And I've had R.W. Bray on my program, who I've known for years, and was a consultant for him in his senatorial bid, Texas senatorial bid. I had him on my program. He heads up black engagement for the RPT right now. And he robustly defends what they've been able to do, but yet he's not able to come up with the metrics that J.T. Edwards and other black conservatives have been asking for out of the RPT. He believes that their model is working, and in an email thread that we reported on, also on RagingElementsRadio.com, Tom Meckler came on the email thread and said he defended Bray and the program that they are trying to implement. The problem is there's no way to measure the success or the failure of the program. Therefore, you have to automatically assume we got failure here, that it's not being done the way it's supposed to be done. There's no need to make a new mousetrap. All the way back in 2008, 2009, and 2010, I showed the proven concept that would get the job done. The RPT just needs to go out and implement it. So the impact as far as whether or not Meckler has left because of pressure due to lack of engagement in the communities of color, I don't think that issue on a statewide or party basis is weighty enough to push him out. It's got to be some other reason. That does not diminish the importance of engagement and what has to be done. Grow the conservative voting base, the Republican Party, through racial diversity. I just don't think that particular issue is potent enough that he's going to get pressure, especially from the money people, to push him out. I don't think that issue did it.
Understood. We have Mike Lee, who has a question for you, sir.
Good evening.
Hey,
I'm Mike Lee. I'm the Director of Outreach and Engagement for the Travis County Republican Party and founding president of Austin Area MLK Association. I urge you, first of all, I've read and listened to everything that you've provided online at Raging Elephants. And I had this question. I think there was a meeting that was referred to in your presentations, that there was a meeting in Dallas sometime in March among some of the longer tenured African Americans who happen to be Republicans.
Correct.
And that, first of all, that's a meeting I didn't know anything about, and I'm probably in touch with the African American community on the conservative side more so than any other person in Travis County. I didn't know about that. There are gentlemen involved that I didn't know, and I know R. Bray very, very well. And I consider us to be working closely together. But there are people that I didn't know. It didn't seem to me that there was a concerted effort made to connect people and to enlarge the effort. And I say this from my own personal standpoint, because if it were true, I would have known the J.T. Edwards. I would have met Robin Armstrong. I've never met these people in person. And there are things that in my view, should have happened that wouldn't happen. And if you look at in my show from last week, where Gabriel Neely was my guest, we discussed some of the challenges that candidates face in getting help from the RPT. It's almost so our show was almost like a prophecy or something to me.
Well, when I did not print the entire email thread that went out that J.T. Edwards, SREC committee man, supplied for us, that had Meckler's response in it, that really just incensed him and triggered him to go public with the whole thing. First of all, Mike, the guys, and as far as I know, 2 or 3 ladies only that were invited to the conference call, yeah, they've been around for a while. I mean, these folks have been working in the GOP for quite some time. It's sort of I don't know what you would call it, just a circle of guys and ladies that have just been around for a long time. And there was no way in the world for me to be up there anyway, for me to call in. And quite frankly, in my position now journalistically, I'm not so sure it would have been a good idea for me to be there. And after what transpired there, I'm definitely happy that I was not there and able to report on it, all of us at RER team, to report on it objectively. And so there really had been a call. I was aware that several of the more influential black conservatives in the state were really kind of scratching their heads about, look, we're not seeing anything out of the RPT. In the email that J.T. Edwards supplied, he called out the RPT, saying that when it comes to candidates of color, or those of color that have actually made it into office, taken the oath of office, the RPT has absolutely no interest in defending them or supporting them. It was one of the bugaboos that J.T. Edwards put in his email, and asked directly to Tom Meckler in that email thread, waiting for Tom to give an answer. And in that entire email thread, Meckler never bothered to respond to J.T. Edwards' query about where's the metrics, how come you guys aren't defending candidates of color, how come you guys are not supplying a budget to R.W. Bray. J.T. believes that R.W. was just set up to fail. No budget, no staff, the data that was being given to follow up on, all of it flawed, inaccurate, just voluminous, and in error, just worthless. And so that was really the impetus for JT that's exploding. He asked Meckler directly in the email thread, come on, man, where's the metrics? Tell us what you guys are doing. Don't tell us you're just having a bunch of meetings, with different people all over the state. That's not how you're going to build a voting base. That's not how you're going to be able to do micro-targeting, which I've always been an advocate for.
Right.
So these guys up there in Dallas that came together and did this, they were seeing what you were seeing, Mike. No activity from Lavaca Avenue, from RPT HQ, just a lot of jawboning, but no money, no budget, no media, no nothing.
So let me chime in. This is Anthony Wynn, and I'm Vice President of TARA, Texas Asian Republican Assembly of Austin. And we are an official auxiliary of the Republican Party, one of 11 official auxiliaries. And at our meeting, we have a representative from RPT that comes to it. Last year they gave each auxiliary $5,000, and it's not a lot of support, but I do get a sense that they are supporting our organization. They come out, they helped us get Ken Paxton. And so I see there is this MLK association on the RPT website. So it has this Henry Childs. You know who he is?
Henry Childs is now, he works in the Trump administration. He was head of what they call TFAR, which I hadn't heard about before. But,
right, T4, and then Henry Childs was also a former SREC committee man, decided not to run again.
And he was a delegate to the National
And
Convention.
is that supposed to be the Black Outreach Auxiliary Group? The
Yeah,
MLK.
yeah,
So who were you talking? Who's in charge of it now? Or who's representing?
Well, R.W. Bray is still in charge of it now.
R.W. Bray is wearing two hats because R.W. Bray was one of the founding members, I think, along with Kevin Fulton and others here in the Houston area. And R.W. also received the position of Director of Black Engagement for the RPT.
Correct.
And, there was some confusion about the membership of MLK being the representative number of their success, which would not be very good because MLK is a membership organization that's relatively young, growing for sure, but as far as a statewide effort to grow the party, a few hundred members or a couple of hundred members just isn't going to get the job done. So whatever Gray was stating to the folks at the meeting back in March, it wasn't getting the job done. It was basically incensing them.
Understood on that one. So I guess now we're at that point where you're gonna be here Friday then, right? To go ahead and talk for the SREC meeting.
Yeah, that would be June the 2nd and June the 3rd. The election will actually be on the 3rd. So it's a very short campaign season. Not like when Meckler was elected as interim. Steve Munisteri basically gave a full quarter's notice. And so there was about 3 months of campaigning. Although it was totally in the hands of the SREC, as it will be this time on June the 3rd, there was actually 4 candidates that crisscrossed the state campaigning in an effort, I guess, to get grassroots liberty movement folks to get on their SREC people to get the votes that they need. And that's how Meckler was able to win. But this time you don't have that type of campaign season. You only have about a couple of weeks. And there's been some names that have been thrown around, and
in fact,
so it's going to be fascinating.
And in fact, I've already gone after I heard the replay of your show from earlier during the week. I got to go to Rick Figueroa's website, which I think at the time was just sitting in a bay at the time, and his website's up. It's still not working properly. Just to give you a heads up. When I checked on it about maybe 2 o'clock, it was still in process of being written, and some of the information was very incomplete, and I'm like, he's not ready for this, and we were just checking on it about maybe an hour ago, and even still, he's got everything on there, but it's not that professional website that you need to have in order to get the job done and show that you're ready. In all honesty, I'm just saying this from a person who's had to build websites and had to run a campaign. If this is the campaign he's running, I don't know about if he's ready.
Well, I tell you, our research team has done the research on him, and later on this evening or first thing tomorrow morning, we'll be posting a lot of the dossier that we've been able to develop on Rick Figueroa. I mean, we're kind of we have sort of a Hall of Fame of nicknames over here at Raging Elephants Radio.
Yeah.
Lloyd Byron Cook, Charlie Monster Garen, Todd the Executioner Hunter. We got all these nicknames. We've got one for Rick Figueroa. Rick, who the hell are you? Figueroa is what we're coming up with for Rick Figueroa. Where did this guy come from? I mean, who is this guy?
Well, okay, I called because I know somebody in the RPT staff, and he is known. I guess he ran for county chairman in 3 different counties. He must have moved around, but he is known within the party, and he was on the committee for outreach to ensure that there's always a Republican candidate on every ballot in all of the blue areas. And they stated,
on that one.
They had some success, not a lot, but you know, he was on that committee, and he seems to be somewhat known amongst the staff as somebody that is active in the parties.
Right.
So
Which he is. There's no doubt about that part. But from what we've seen, I've met him. I met him at the state convention. I'll put it to this way, Apostle. I will. Since we talked about Craig Bushon earlier, and if he's going to be watching this later on, I hope he takes this as a tip of the hat for him. You know, he's got that bravado that's out there that just says, you know, you got to listen to me. But it's one of those things that I heard him. I heard him talk. I don't know if he's ready. To be honest with you, you know,
No, he's not. There's no question about it. He's not ready. Listen, first of all, the chairman's race, no matter how it's conducted, a lot of it, more so perhaps than other offices that you would run for in politics, is name ID and popularity.
right.
You have to really elevate your name ID. You have to have some sort of bona fides as a party activist. And from what we've been able to dig up, that's just non-existent. For someone to say that they're going to be at the top of the pyramid of the RPT, we just don't see it as CV to justify that type of promotion or that type of election. Now, I'll break something right here on the Trailer Park Show. We've had some folks within the party tell us that it has been the intention, it has been the project of Meckler and the insiders to groom this guy for over the last year.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah.
And we're like, well, okay, nobody saw this coming. But apparently from the internals, from those that are the inner circle, he was tapped for this a year ago and they've been trying to groom him. Well, for a year, you're going to, the most prominent liberty oriented media organization in the state doesn't know who this guy is.
Right.
I mean, if we don't know who he is he worth knowing? You know what I mean?
That's true. And here's my bigger complaint about this, and this is something that I was going to bring up to the group, is that what I'm seeing is that there is, and me being Hispanic, or I guess now Latino, I call myself Latino because I'm on the low end of the socioeconomic scale as a teacher. Being on that end, if we're going to try to show diversity in the party, which is great, it's always a good thing to do. Couldn't it be somebody else? In all honesty, I'm not trying to discredit Rick or anything like that, but let's face some reality. You made the comment. They've been grooming him for a year. There's got to be somebody out there right now that's in the state that has been traveling, that has been going to different areas, that if it's Hispanic or Latino, that's great. If he's African American or black or even Asian, isn't there somebody else that is identified as a minority that they can say, hey, guess what? This is the guy or this is the person you really need to look at to be the symbol of what the party is? Because right now, the way I'm seeing him right now is that he's just a token.
Well, yeah, he is a token, and this is the wrong way to go for the party. Here's what's more important, I believe, at this particular point in time. Here's the real impact that this resignation of Meckler is going to have on the direction of the party. And just before I make this comment, just let me say once again, I want to make sure that folks understand that when it comes to growing the party through racial diversity, and anybody who knows me knows that I believe it is an absolute imperative that it has to be a party priority with a lot of resources going into it. And if the party is only coughing up $5,000 per auxiliary, okay, fine, but what is the internal structure of the party on HQ? What are they doing? How much money are they raising? What kind of budget do they have? One of the things that R.W. Gray was saying on our radio station was that he's been asking for a budget. He's been asking for a budget for media, and he hasn't gotten it. Okay, so where's Meckler as far as the money man raising a budget for that, or where's the treasurer as far as a money man, raising a budget for that to get that done. Now, the impact is going to be the direction of the party as a whole, ideologically, because the SREC, which is the board of directors for the party, is basically split 50-50 right now. You got the old guard status quo that would defend Meckler to their last drop of blood, and you do have a legitimate Liberty Caucus that saw its numbers swell to that 50-50 split in the 2016 convention. So this is a chance to see a major power shift in the Republican Party of Texas. Major shift. The committee members that identify as Liberty Caucus, they have the ability at this moment, by installing their candidate, to essentially take over the power of the party.
Right.
And that the delegation of the convention will finally have folks at the top of the party who will be looking out for their interests above all. This is the chance for a major, major power shift in the party. That's the major story here.
That's true. That's absolutely true. And I think the big concern is, so long as we don't have a Robert Morrow type of person that's going to be trying to run the party, I think we're okay. Just because. No,
it never helps when you have like someone that is a candidate to be on the registered sex offenders list as as the chairman of the party. And then we learned from, of course, the Democrats, it's not a good idea to nominate an unindicted felon to be your presidential nominee. That doesn't work either. So.
True. That is absolutely true.
Wow.
So, but yeah, we're looking forward to this weekend. So we've got 3 people that are in the running, or that are identified. What are your thoughts? I mean, have you talked about who you feel will be the elected one?
Yeah, I think the odds-on favorite is Mark Ramsey, who, in full disclosure, I reside in SD7, so he would be representing me on the in the SREC committee. Also, of course, your chair there in Travis County,
right.
James Dickey, has been his name has been bandied about, and then of course Rick Figueroa announced on Twitter and on his Facebook page that or what his retarded website, whatever you want to call it, that he's running as well. So, but of those 3, I would think the odds-on favorite would be Mark Ramsey, and the short campaign season would favor him because he is a known quantity. He is a multi-term SREC member. Right. He has sat on several committees of the SREC. He has been a committee chairman at the state convention. He's a known quality, and it seems like the Liberty Caucus they're trying to recruit him hard to run, and he has not given a definitive answer. But if he was to say thumbs up and give it a green light and make a run for it, I think he would be the odds-on favorite, being an insider as he is already on the SREC.
And that actually will speak volumes. And I'll put it to you this way, because you mentioned the Liberty Caucus is liking him. Some of the Tea Party groups, especially in Houston, have also endorsed, thrown their hat for Mark to be the new chairman. Which, I mean, you got two diverse groups in that whole thing. That speaks volumes for Mark. And I've met both of them. I've talked to both of them, both Mark and James, on numerous occasions. So yeah, this one I would, for me personally, I'd be like, whoever it is, let's see what happens.
Well, now, I gotta say that I have to say, beginning today, I have heard from a couple of people that are James Dickey supporters, and I'm going to be having Ken Emanuelson, the Dallas Tea Party, on the program later on in the week. And he has firmly said that he has worked with James Dickey very closely in a couple of associations. He finds him to be an outstanding activist.
Oh, yeah.
And he supports, he is supporting James Dickey for the position. And I've heard nothing but pretty good things about James Dickey. I don't recall meeting him personally, but from those that I've received reports from about him, people that I trust implicitly,
yeah.
He seems to be an outstanding candidate as well. The question becomes, of course, to some extent, although he is a party chair, he's right there in Travis County, the People's Republic of Travis County, Moscow in Colorado.
So
Although
he's
he's
local.
there, he's still a little bit on the outside. You know, he's not exactly inside the party, and so that's why I would still give the edge to Mark Ramsey.
Right.
But I've heard some outstanding things about James Dickey, and some of the right types of people are saying those things about James Dickey and are showing him some support.
Oh yeah, definitely, and I think all of us here, at one time or another, has actually worked closely with James on matters, and Mike has been working with him greatly with doing the outreach.
Yes, he's the one that got me in this mess in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah, James was the one that got Mike Lee as the outreach director, and him and I worked together with some of the outreach that we've done in East Austin with Pokey, with Anthony. He's done quite a bit of things with the Terra Group, and in Pflugerville as well, and of course with Maryland. You know, when she ran for office.
Yeah,
well,
and-
no, actually afterwards.
Yeah, but you know what? It may take someone that may not have know all that flavor to get in there with some creative ideas to really work this thing for the state of Texas. I think James Dickey would be an excellent person to do this.
Well, it seems like when you're scouring social media, where I think the campaign really is going to be won or lost, you know, the conversation is hot. As soon as we broke the news on Thursday, I mean, social media just blew up, and the conversation was Dickey or Ramsey. Everybody is completely just disregarding Figueroa. But you can't do that because, once again, if the establishment picked Figueroa, you cannot underestimate that human being's ability to win this race. Politics is politics. The RPT is the RPT. And as Meckler accurately identified in his goodbye letter, there are multiple factions in the RPT. They are battling it out for power. And so the idea of us completely dismissing Figueroa because he has no name ID and we don't think he has the credentials, the bona fides, or the CV to be chairman, well, apparently the plutocrats, the big check writers, the status quo has gotten behind him. And so don't forget that there is that faction in the RPT that wants to maintain the status quo. Those Rhino Country Club Republicans, they're there. They're writing the big checks. So don't underestimate that guy. But as far as social media is concerned,
Hold on a minute, Apostle. Apostle Clever,
Yeah.
can you hear me?
yeah, I got you, Pokey.
I had to escape from the control room there. I got one problem with my friend James Dickey. He's from
All right.
California. Can I hold that against him or not?
He's what, Pokey? I didn't hear you.
Oh,
He's
he-
California.
He's from
he's
California.
from California.
Ooh.
If I could get a couple of quick house
I
clean.
don't know. You guys know how I feel about that. If somebody moves from another state, I mean, they've got to go. You know, you got to marinate in Texas for a while to be considered a Texan. You got to marinate.
Yeah, I
for
heard,
a
I
He's
heard,
been
I
here
heard, I
for a
heard it was
while.
10 years. I heard it
Well-
was 10 years.
Yeah, I think he's been here long
He's
enough.
been here a
but-
while. Didn't he come from the Dallas area?
Yeah.
He came
Yeah,
from
yeah.
up
Yeah,
north.
so
Yeah, he grew up in Dallas Fort Worth area.
he went to one of them California schools, but he's been here in Texas pretty good
He
while.
went to Stanford.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I just want to make
Went to
sure because
Stanford.
when they come from out of state, I am a firm believer that they must be baptized in either jalapeno juice or Cholula.
Let me go with-
I think he is.
Let me go
I
over
think
two
he
more
has
things
been.
with you. Brandon Steinhauser is the name I heard thrown around. I don't know if you know him, but I want to know where your billboards are at. I did not have a picture of your billboard to show tonight.
All you got to do, man, is just Google. All you got to do is go to Google Images and put my name up there, man. You know you're going to get about 1,200 pages of all kind of stuff.
Yeah, but they were all, you got as many friends as you got enemies. So you must be doing something right. I'm going to go get back in the control room there,
Yeah.
Apostle, and Mike Lee's about to come on right next, and your guest
No,
was,
no, I don't have a show tonight.
you don't?
Nope.
Oh, she's down there looking for an 80 now.
I don't
No
have
wonder she can't find her.
I don't have a show until June the 5th, and I'm supposed to have as my guest. One of my guests is going to be J.T. Edwards.
10-4, and June the 5th.
Oh,
Are you going to be
June the
here?
5th.
Are you going to
Yeah,
be here?
my hope is that I'm going to actually be in the studio June the 5th.
10-4.
It's going to be a crazy weekend. If not, I've already made a commitment as a
Yes,
as a minimum
it's going to be
call in.
crazy.
I love it.
Oh, it's going to be crazy. That's going to be the Monday directly after the election. So
Next Monday.
all the fallout will be happening by then. Full fallout will be
10-4.
happening by then.
I
So
love
All
it.
right,
we'll
then,
see you on the
I'm gonna
5th,
go back in the control room.
Claver.
If,
I see it, Pokey, man.
if you get a chance, please watch my show from last week with Gabe and I.
Okay, all right. And is that now? Wait a minute. Now, Pokey sent me a link. Is the show going to be? It's going to be there, right? Pokey?
Yes.
If you Google Right Talk with Mike Lee and go to episode 27, you'll view.
We'll get it for you. We'll get it for you. Basil.
That's my homework, I guess.
And for just to let people know a little bit of the backstory that Pokey was talking about the billboard. Raging Elephants, when they were RagingElephants.org, which is now RagingElephants.com, had posted a billboard in Austin that and I'm looking at the picture right now. It's a picture of Martin Luther King Jr. and it says Martin Luther King was a Republican, and it created a lot of fury in Austin about people that said he's not, and it was a wonderful. It was wonderful.
good.
I loved watching it. I loved passing by whenever I drove into Austin. It was great.
Well, we had 4 of those, and it wasn't actually when all this controversy and this big dust-up among Texas black conservatives took place about what's the right direction for black engagement. I went back and I pulled up a lot of those old TV reports from back in the day of RagingElephants.org before we were RagingElephantsRadio.com. And we put up 4 billboards, and it was Rudy Kosky from Fox 7 that did a excellent television full story, about 5 minutes. 4 or 5 minute story on the billboards. Interviewed me, went into the Texas Capitol. Those 4 billboards, it caused a stink, man. It was like the morning talk radio for about a week. People were cussing on the radio. It was beautiful.
I love it. I'll be honest with you. When I saw it, I'm like, I like this. This is gonna be good. So yeah, we had it. It was very exciting during that time. I'll tell you that much. So,
But that's what I mean, though. When we talk about media and budget, when we talk about the template has already been established, all anybody has to do is look at that type of work that we did back then in 2010, 11, and 12, and 13, and follow that model. It was very successful. We put those billboards up all over the nation, and we never had to put a press release out. All we had to do was erect the billboard and just sit around and drink pina coladas for a few days, and the news was going to blow up.
Yeah.
We put them in Ohio. We put them in South Carolina. We put them in Rhode Island. We put them in Kansas City. They were all over. And everywhere we put them, it caused a stir.
Yeah.
And it was the talk. And so, and here's the thing. We made the decision on where to put those billboards based on our ability to go out and recruit volunteers, train them, and literally go door to door in these neighborhoods. And it was based, and we were going door to door taking a survey, identifying camouflage conservatives, hidden conservatives in these predominantly black neighborhoods that are deeply blue precincts. and 80% of these folks were grading out to be conservative to strong conservative. I mean, Maryland knows what we're talking about because we did it in East Austin, and over 70% were coming out grading. We walked up in the yards that still had Obama yard signs. People were coming up to the door with Obama gear on, hats and sweatshirts and the whole 9 yards. And then we go through the 10 questions, and they would grade out of a possible 50 a 44, meaning they're a strong conservative, a strong conservative, right? And they got Obama gear. This is East Austin, okay? This is Eddie Rodriguez country, okay?
Well, we kind of did that impact when this past election cycle when we went into Donna Duke's territory, and we were able to identify quite a bit more conservatives that were out there that were kind of like, as I like to call them, the closet conservatives.
Yeah.
They're the ones that don't want to come out of the closet just yet, but when they do, they're going to be singing and praising about all the great stuff that they can talk about now. And it was one of those great moments where you actually can find them, and what we're actually going to be doing is trying to capitalize on what we learned through the 2016 election.
Well,
so
one of the great things that you can witness is when you're talking to someone and they come to the realization. It's happened several times. You know, you're conversing with someone one-on-one and in a group, and one of those people, the light comes on. You know, it's that click moment, and they realize they're conservative, and they realize, you know, and it's a shock to them, especially if they're a person of color.
Yes.
And when they realize, oh no, I should be voting Republican, and it's like it's a life crisis at the moment for them. They realize they see the inner struggle within them. They realize this is what I really believe, and I've been voting for people that don't believe what I believe all this time because my mama did it, my grandmother did it, my grandfather did it. And I also think there's a fear when they come to that realization.
Oh, yeah.
Because they may have participated in the ostracizing of people of color
Right.
who were conservative. They threw all the pejoratives at them. You're a stepping fence. You're an Uncle Tom. You're an Oreo. You're a traitor to your race. Blah, blah, blah. You're a black Republican and all of that. Then all of a sudden they realize, uh-oh, I'm supposed to be one too. And so this subjects them potentially to the bad vitriolic abuse that they've been pouring out on other people.
Oh, yeah. And I'll share the story real quick with you because my wife just messaged me about what you just said. My wife, who was a lifelong Democrat, just recently converted to becoming a Republican, or actually more conservative, and identify with the way I think in regards to politics. It's kind of one of those things where you have that conversation and everybody's like, hey, wait a minute, you know, we are actually in agreement with a lot of things. And I'm pretty sure my wife's going to kill
You
me
used the
right
right
now.
word.
So
And you used the right definition. You just said she converted.
Yeah.
And for years I've been saying what we need to practice is political conversion.
yes.
Yep.
That is true.
Just like you're converting someone who's not saved to being saved, conversion experience. The same thing happens politically. And it's you know, I'm not going to say it's necessarily a spiritual thing, but it's definitely something that has shifted within their soul,
Oh, yeah.
their mind, their will, their intellect.
Yeah,
The light bulb comes on.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, but you know what? It is a spiritual thing. It should be anyway. For those persons that are spiritual.
Well, living is supposed to be.
Well, for sure. But I'm talking about from a Christian mindset. I mean, when you talk about platforms, really, you need to really look at the two platforms
Right.
to see which one is the closest to your beliefs.
Well,
You know?
in my experience, when you encounter those people who've been voting contrary to their values that they really hold, is the only thing they seem to recall about Christianity is help your brother.
Yeah,
Well, we need to help them.
that is true.
No, we need to help them know the
They,
truth.
they forgot about the part where of work and
Exactly.
self-responsibility.
Well,
It's all help your brother.
Go cast your net on the right side of the boat. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, Apostle, I want to thank you for staying with us for so long. It's been an honor to talk to you again, and we're going to be wrapping up the show real quick. Any final messages you want to talk about? What's going to be going on RagingElephants.com tomorrow?
All this week, and I'm anticipating all next week.
You
It's
got
going
it.
to be full coverage on this RPT Chairman's race. I've already got full bookings all the way through the week to cover every angle on this race. However, we cannot be distracted from the fact there's only a few days left remaining in the 85th Texas legislature. And what the Straussians and the plutocrats are doing under the Pink Dome are just atrocious. So we got to keep an eye out on what's happening with the rhino pen underneath the Pink Dome. And let me say this for you guys. For RagingElephantsRadio.com, we're going to be focusing a lot on RPT Rule 44,
Okay,
the censorship rule, the censure rule.
you got it.
And what we are hearing from our sources is that as soon as the session is over, that weapon, that rule, is going to be weaponized. And there's going to be a lot of folks that are going to be absolutely obliterated because of Rule 44. So watch that after the session. Few days left in the session, after the session, you're going to have to watch the party at every level because of Rule 44 and the power to censor.
Okay, that works. Well, Paulso, thank you very much for being on the show with us. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up over here, sir, and we will talk to you
Thanks for
later
the
on.
invitation.
We'll see you on the
Anytime,
5th
man.
of June.
Watch my show from
June
last week
5.
and tune in on the 5th of June. We're gonna blow this thing up.
All right.
June 5, if the Lord says the same.
You got
Yeah.
it, sir. So on behalf of everybody here, we want to thank everybody for being on the show. I want to thank Princess Sophia, who was on watching from home. Hopefully, we'll be able to have her on the show next week, and we will see you guys next week.
Too late. Not too bad, huh? Did we all
Yeah.
say anything?
Yep.